Your instruments are one of those things where in a globalized world where everything is familiar now and we all know everything and we can all see everything quickly, your instruments are still a surprise to people. And when we show your instruments on tour with the Bougie Guitar Showcase, NAMM show, wherever it happens to be, there's a funny phrase that happens all the time. People are like, "Oh, that's the most modern guitar I've ever seen," or "That's something new." Like, it's almost 30 years old. They're like, "What?" Yeah, it's almost 30 years old. They can't believe it because it still looks more modern than anything else that exists. With your instruments, somehow they're not trapped in 1995 or 1997 or whichever year you designed that particular model. They still say it's the newest thing they've ever seen. Even in the cities that we've been to with your guitars 6 or 7 times, we're still meeting new people all the time with this. And it reminds me often, because a lot of guitar makers or anybody who deals with a product for a long period of time has this feeling that I have to create something new, or I can't send the same thing again. I'm like, trust me, everywhere we go, people are shocked at what you have. Nobody thinks that's old or I've already seen that. And if they've seen it, they actually want to see it again. And there's this sense of timelessness about your designs, that they're not guitars that look like the 1990s.
This is very interesting what you tell me now, and it makes me just think about it, because it's just my guitars, it's my daily work, it's the reason why I'm allowed to listen to audiobooks working, so I just build them. But there is something understandable in that, and I try to figure out. I agree, so they might be somehow timeless, because if I would step out of my skin and look at this instrument, I also would do hard to put them into a certain epoch. So why is it? The Antonio is different. The Antonio is a modern instrument, but let's say with the other shapes, if I look at the most polarizing shapes like the Birdfish and the Tesla, there is a timelessness in. Yeah, maybe it's that I subconsciousness didn't follow design trends, because if you go to the production of design, everything we are thinking in consumer product and. The novelty is always the thing. And design does pretty much the same as fashion. So a certain kind of purple always returns in maybe 15 years, 15 years, 17 years, 15 years. And same happens with styles, or with how you deal with shapes and forms. And so you always have and it's like an unagreed agreement, but it makes sense to preserve the fact of novelty for the industry and the consumer at any time. So as if we would all agree on that, a certain trend of designing or colors can return every 15 times and spark new desire. Every 15 years and spark new desire. And maybe when you work in design, I remember from my design school that as a student you also think in trends, because you are triggered by what surrounds you. People, friends, magazines, famous designers.
Yeah, sure.
And that didn't happen with my guitars, because there was no such thing as guitar design. Guitars were just made somehow. And they were not a part of the serious industrial design process. I mean, there were designers working on guitars, but it was not the way how to design guitars. While there is no consumer product left which is not intentionally designed by competent people who are trained in that and market research and everything, but by the owner of the company, and he says, "Oh, I like this, and this is how it will look, the product. Let's invest $200 million. That's not going to work anymore." So but with my guitar, since there is no tradition of how to design a guitar, and my unspoken slightly distance to the design world as such, I just took a design that somehow suited for me to the purpose of the concept of guitars, and maybe this, because they don't fit into a design time, and that's true.
Yeah.
And if I consider that, because it's hard for me to think that way, because I might sound too self-esteem to self-esteemish on that, but it's true. If I look at, I mean, the Birdfish is very loud shape-wise, but if I look at the Tesla, it will be still a modern guitar in 20 years from now, and in 50 years. And the other reason could be because there is no response on that. It doesn't spark a trend.
That's also true.
So that you and a music trend, so you can locate it, lock that in the year 2005.
Right.
There was that trend, because the Stratocaster is always connected with various players, but probably most likely to Jimi Hendrix, and he died too early. So that was the moment where you connect. You being, where were you in the year Jimi Hendrix passed away? And what happened to you? And you had more hair on your head and all those things. So you lock it into that time frame. Same when you look at a Mustang. You can't disconnect it from Kurt Cobain anymore. And I remember, because Kurt Cobain, for instance, was something, Nirvana, I used to listen to as a real adult person.
Yeah.
And I was not, I understood what it, so through Kurt Cobain I understood was all the death of the other former players meant to people. So why there was this moaning and this deep depression for many people. And I realized that with Kurt Cobain, not personally that much, but since I was a witness of that time and was old enough to reflect it, what happened. And that led also, I mean, the death of Kurt Cobain led also to the lock-in of this very unimportant guitar shape in the guitar history, the Mustang, with a personality. And so you connect the design with a kind of era. So when you reenact with this guitar, you're always kind of, bound, constrained to that era. And that happens also to the guitar. And since there is no sonic oeuvre taking part with my guitars, they are still liberate, still free. Maybe they are this way, timeless. But you're true, they are timeless.
Because there's almost no indication. We look at guitars from certain eras, and we can look at the hardware, we can look at the pickups. These are indicators for us.
Oh yeah, you're right. The details.
The graphic they're using. The Fender logo is the Fender logo, but it looked different in the 70s than it did in the 80s. And so on and so forth. And there are trends, design trends, which happened over these periods, which are actually absent from your instruments. And so even your materiality, your choice of your soft touch finish, is no, and your choice of colors. There's no indication to which time period that was. Thank you for watching and listening. You can find more episodes wherever you listen to your podcasts. And a special thanks to those who support us on Patreon. It's your support that enables us to do this work.